3. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yo, what's up, man? This is my show that I totally freaking almost forgot. I started at 2:30. Yeah, let's freaking go. I know I was freaking late, but you probably didn't mean it that way, Matt. You know? Hey, you guys, welcome to the pre-listening party. This is where I talk about the character Eddie Clive, because Eddie Clive is awesome. Oh my God. All right, you guys. Today has been a messed up day. All right. But I'm going to do this. We're going to move right into Eddie Clive. But first, hey, what's up, Lady Braven? Thanks for being here. Thanks for saying hi. Really appreciate it. Today's been totally a discombobulated day. I'm going to see if I can share a screen here. No, I freaking screwed up. Okay, first I'll share the listening party here. Okay, so this starts at 4 o'clock, and 17 tracks, and I'm really proud of this. I have a lot of friends that help collaborate with it, and so this is going to start in less than an hour and a half. So I'm also going to pull up another. I'm going to remove that. See how that works? And I got to stop that screen, I guess, and share this screen. And here it is, you guys. This is the Apple Cars right here. This is the brand new album. Hope you guys could hear me. Hope I'm not distorting. I put a lot of work into this over the years. This one took me a year to do. Look at, there's like an apple moon in the background there. But what I want, this is all about Eddie Clive and how he's having these strange dreams of being in his favorite band from a generation ago, and how it really affects him. And the band is the Apple Cars, right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try rushing through his history. And his history actually starts at the unscheduled appearance of Eddie Clive. I can't believe I almost forgot what time I was going to start this. And we're not going to listen to the music. We're just going to go. I'm going to give a synopsis of Eddie Clive. And Eddie Clive, he grew up with two parents who were really cool to him and encouraged him to do music. And so he's a multi-instrumentalist, but he's not a musical virtuoso, but he understands how to write a song, you know? And but he gets into a lot of trouble here. He gets into a lot of trouble later on in life because what he did was he sent out, he created an album and he sent it out to his favorite artist, right? And he wasn't thinking anything of it. And it got him into a lot of trouble because in this world that I created, all musicians are considered magicians, and all the entertainment industry are schools of magic, and some are really dark and some are really inspirational and light. And so here's virtual cues, right? So I'm just gonna read from this here. I can't believe it. I got all these freaking notes and notes of songs, man, and I gotta find the one that I need here. So I'm gonna read from the from the page here. So here is a character who was not scheduled to appear yet here he is. And I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna try putting on some background stuff. Let me know if this is annoying. So we're gonna do the background music, and I hope you guys like it. Thanks for coming in, saying hi, all that good stuff as I ease into what I'm doing here. So this is Eddie Clive. Here is a character who was not scheduled to appear yet here he is. He existed, of course, as the same as other unnamed characters, but some friends just had to know right now. So here he is. He's a good chap. Eddie has good intentions, but like an infamous tarot card suggests, he started meandering, doing things impulsively. It's not because he's a wicked dude. It's just how he started off, making virtual friends, but not paying much attention to them. It wasn't because he's wicked or callous or resentful. He just felt that virtual reality didn't equate to real chemistry. Not with other real people anyway. So he didn't see all those virtual cues. He didn't see all the virtual cues. Because people, in the past, there was no internet. And these magicians would just put on a show. And the reason why they're called magicians is because they could ripple reality. They could impact the reality around them. And there's the reasons for that can be scientific, but they've been superstitious for ages until scientists understood quantum physics. But there's still magical schools out there that are very, they're very superstitious. So he didn't know any of this. He made quite a mess because he met all sorts of virtual people who read into his random posts. And when I said pre-internet, because once the internet was created, then your average person had access to rippling reality by way of their art that they're putting out into the world. Because the mere observation of an environment affects that environment in the terms of quantum physics. And the double slit experiment actually demonstrates this, And Eddie was really into this. So his story continues in It's Taboo or whatever, right? So we go to this song, which I'm not going to play right now, because these earlier songs, I'm going to freaking redo them. At least the vocals. The first 3-4 chapters of Eddie Clive, I'm redoing. I just didn't like how as you do things, you understand how to do things better. And when I started this, man, I thought I was doing it pretty good. My wife and I create the album covers. So this is the album Burning Desire. I've been working on this for years. But so here's the story so far. Eddie Clive is a naive person. He also enjoys mental escapism in books he's read, especially quantum philosophy. One of those art authors really impressed him or amused him, and Eddie loved the author's work, but unfortunately this work led him down a dark path. This artist, this author was very humorous and used quantum physics in a very convincingly way. to demonstrate that it is a real, the quantum philosophy is something that everyone should perhaps study. But he wasn't a New Ager, and that's what Eddie Clive liked. He likes that. He likes science. He's not. He wasn't really into the New Age, you know. Hey, what's up, Melanie? So this is my sister Melanie. Everyone swinging by and saying hi, and I appreciate that. I'm just going over Eddie Clive on the fly here, impromptu. I didn't really study or anything. I've been doing this for years, you know. But so yeah, Melanie, this is my friend Kat, Lady Braven. She's really cool. So I read the story so far. So he gleaned some insight the other day, reading a philosopher's work that very much inspired him. He enjoyed not only the prose, but the underlying comedic attitude. This book that he read, it was so funny, and it made so much sense to him. And he and he made examples of, not only the double slit experiment, but quantum entanglement and other bizarre aspects of quantum physics. But this author, he had jokes, it was jokes in the face of matters mostly unexplored due to its taboo or whatever. So a connection was made, an argument that information was relative and always filtered by the mind engaging it. Quantum physics presented a direct relationship between the observer and its direct environment. Because in the double slit experiment, which is probably the greatest experiment that illustrates this, anyone who observes that experiment affects the result of the experiment. And it has to do with whether light is photons or waves, And when someone observes it, it's particles. So it's really crazy. So this author was making jokes about how when you turn your head, reality is waving behind you. It's blurry. It's not concrete. And with jokes in the face of matters mostly unexplored due to its taboo or whatever. Imagine that subatomic particles around the observer were entangled with others not in its direct environment. The author said it was true or greatly probable, which is close to being true, and therefore most of the time is true. And that has to do with also probability in quantum physics, where they don't even really know where subatomicals are or where their trajectory is. And yet the science predicts the outcome so well that we have technologies because of quantum physics. We have the transistor, we have everything because of quantum physics. And yet it doesn't really know where the subatomic particles are. This is the attitude of a joking philosopher who didn't seem to care about its taboo or whatever. And so that's off the Burning Desire. This is chapter 2, Eddie Clive, which I'm going to redo the vocals, I decided. I just and the first one too. So now we're gonna go into Atomic Configuration. I love this song, but I got to redo the vocals of this too. Let me check over here. Hey, thanks for saying hi to each other. Thanks for backing me up on the pre-listening extravaganza. I know I'm blowing your mind, man. It's incredible. I love you, Matt. So let me know if this song underneath here gets old. I think I got a couple other ones too. You know what I mean? the song underneath is Psychotronic Synthwave Part 2. I actually created that. But here is, we're going to go into atomic configuration. Eddie is really stunned over the implications of quantum physics, even more as he continues to study it. Quantum philosophy doesn't seem enough. He wants to learn more. So, what an amazing philosophy, he thought, backed by a science responsible for lasers and transistors in the transistor. Yeah, we wouldn't have lasers without quantum physics. It's pretty amazing. If particles are actually waves and they behave according to how they're perceived, what actually prevents them from being anything? So there's this agreement in reality that seems to be outside of us, right? And there's an atomic particle agreement that they all agree to become atoms. Then atoms have this agreement to turn into molecules. And then molecules have an agreement to come together and create chemicals and everything around us. And all this is happening, and it's a creation, right? It's pretty freaking weird. And so it's blowing Eddie Clive's mind away, you know? So, and why did these fundamental units of matter become what they actually are or seem to be? So why do subatomic particles and atoms to molecules to chemistry, why does that all happen the way it happens? So after reading this book, Eddie was totally freaked out about it. What information organizes these units into an atomic configuration that in turn agrees to bond with other atoms to form molecules, which in turn agrees to combine into the objects around him? What compels them to do this? You know? The forms come together to create laser forms, is organized via information. Subatomic fields are essentially waves of information. Or concepts, he thought, similar to words flowing over rhythms and harmonies. It's all essentially vibration. And this is when he realizes, wait a second, I'm a songwriter. Holy freak. If consciousness, if all this, okay, so if consciousness is impacting subatomic particles to form reality somehow, and that the observer actually has an impact on their reality, then similar to vibration, because that's what frequency is, it's vibrating. Information over that vibration creates reality. So that's the same thing as songs. That's the same thing as someone singing words over a strumming guitar. And he put that connection together on his own after reading this book. It does get him in a lot of trouble, however, you know. It's not, oh, cool. Love the background music. Yeah. This is Psychotronic Squirt Gun song called Psychotronic Synthwave Part 2. I might change the title someday. When I first saw this exclamation mark after the A, I thought it was an I. I'm like, no, that's not. It's not AI. It's actually me creating that. Cool. Ron pushed the idea to his fruition is one of my favorite songs so far. Thank you, Matt. And I really appreciate you checking out the song. That Eddie Clive dreams of things happening that might have actually happened. I appreciate you going to the Bandcamp and listening to the songs. Thank you so much, man. It really means a lot to me. So we're going to keep going here. And so I just read the atomic configuration. And now we're going to go to Strung Together by Concepts. And this album, Action Epiphanies, it's pretty good. This has like 32 songs on it. And one of those songs is Strung Together by Concepts. And we're talking about Eddie Clive here. You know what I mean? So, so this song is about the quantum philosophical songwriter, Eddie Clive. He's really putting some interesting quantum concepts together. Through contemplation and comparing and contrasting ideas, he came to a stunning realization that words and music could have an impact on reality itself. Similarly to the way that matter arranges itself according to the information held in atoms and molecules. So that's exactly what I just said. And I said it a different way. He also realized that he can't possibly be the first person to stumble upon these notions. So here's the lyrics to it. Now, should I try something different here? A different background? It's the perfect volume. That's cool. I don't want to hit people over the head for 2 hours or an hour and a half, though. So what I'm going to try doing is going to try something else here. My friend Leia actually separated this and did this. So let me know if this is working out here. So as he picked up his guitar to strum it, wave concepts impacting energy fields. He couldn't believe what he was actually considering. But all the evidence was there and backed by science. Words form concepts and are concepts in of themselves. And they're strung together by symbols most people take for granted. This is all information that can coalesce into matter. He can essentially create his own reality. Do other artists know this? He asked himself, what other venues of art are utilized by this effect? What if plays or paintings or even movies and television? Of course, most people view movies absent-mindedly, meaning they're staring into a screen, going into alpha waves, and they're observing other people's ideas. And what are the intentions behind those ideas? This is how Eddie Clive is thinking. In fact, he read somewhere that the brain enters into a slight trance when viewing an electronic screen. So what I just described as an alpha wave, most brain waves are beta. Our wakeful state of mind is beta. And when we're going into a meditative state or watching a screen, our brains go into an alpha wave, and we're more suggestible to our environment. So let me check over here now. Go to comments. Okay, good. Hey man, thank you so much. Just listening and stuff really is helpful to me. You don't necessarily have to pay for the album, but I do. I put a lot of work into this stuff. And as I go along here, I redo songs and I make them better, and I release them onto the streaming platforms. So thank you, Matt. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a friend. So I'm gonna see how far I can get. I'm trying to get Eddie through the whole story to the Apple cars, and wish me luck. So Eddie's story continues, and make the connections, which the song that we're listening to in the background is the music for it without the words. The story so far Eddie Clive's kind of a deep guy. He's kind of deep. Likes to really ponder what the true nature of reality could be. And this is where, a lot of my friends are like, why is Leia coming on and talking about peptides all the time? And Leia actually sang this song too and recorded it for me. So thank you, Leia. But here's the words to that. The past is just peptides, a neural net. He's really drawn to statements like this. Eddie is. And, he read more books after this, and he's realizing about how our thoughts are very addictive. Our thoughts, our bodies are addicted to the way we think. And that's the human condition. And we rarely change our mind about things. Eddie likes pondering what is real and what is an illusion. And that's what led him to his favorite philosopher, which was the author I told you about. Those epiphanies did not come to him easily. He had to take time for himself to ponder abstractions which he knew were not connected to his emotions or his moods. It's almost like the nature of addiction itself is emotion. And it's not to say that emotion is bad or anything like that, but it's a feeling, it's a peptide flow to every cell in your body. And you feel it. You feel the words you say. And then all the molecules and cells in your body release a signal to your brain called biopeptides that tell you, yeah, we got the message. And this is how we feel, So it's a feedback loop. So people go like this a lot, right? That's pretty much what's really going on with humans, with us, with me, with you, with everybody. That these feelings, hold on a second, that these feelings needed to be put aside in order to really contemplate and make the connections. That this was a price in the beginning, but when he put the information to work is when his life began to change. He created the concepts and worked to replace them in his art, which rippled his life. That's what Eddie did. So he started writing songs about things that he wanted. And over time, it started happening. But what he didn't know at the time was that it's better to stand on the side of justice instead of his own self-interest. But even greater than that, to bring into focus real concepts that would help the world heal. He does eventually learn that. So don't worry about it. So yeah, I've been doing this for years. Look at it. I released this. I don't even want to tell you guys how long I've been doing this. It's ridiculous. Sometimes I wonder why I'm doing this. But it's fun in a way, you know what I mean? Hey, Keith, thank you for swinging by. Bunny Lohop, I freaking love your Bridges song. Was it 50 Bridges or something like? I freaking love that. I listened to that on my MP3 player. And hopefully we could collaborate someday. I would really like that, Keith. I really think you're talented. Right. What's going on here? Thank you, Kat. And so now we're going to go to a song called To Render Concepts. And I don't know, is this the 7th song? This might be the 7th. No, this is the 6th chapter. The first few chapters of Eddie Clive, I'm going to redo. The first 3 or 4. I just don't like the vocals. I love the music. It sucks. I already done this so many times. But here's the story so far. Eddie has a friend named Dwight that he hasn't talked to in a while. Eddie wishes he was still in contact with his friend, so he had someone to talk to about these new revelations, because he's into quantum physics and he's into like the concept of impacting reality, because it you could shake off that victim mentality with just this new information. And but he doesn't have anyone to talk to because he thinks when he talks to New Agers, they're so hokey. You know, they're not even real. So here's the lyrics. To spell it out to the reader, not magic spells, mind you, but placing symbols next to one another to render concepts. Or is that the same thing, he mused? Could it be when people speak, they are creating their life? That's a big thing to Eddie. The very things they're saying are impacting their direct environment, never mind when they're on the internet. Or at least helping to, as they listen to others speak, which in turn impacts their lives. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the background sound again. I do like that little but I'm going to go to this one here.
Timer? Oh, recorder.
It's funny that spelling words and casting spells use the exact phonetics, or it's the same freaking word, spelling and spells, and spell something. And Eddie was really intrigued by that. How strange is that? He needs to look up the origin someday. He needs to, etymologically speaking, he needs to understand this. Is it merely a coincidence? Could be. Dwight would probably know. God, how he missed his friend. They would bounce around all kinds of concepts when they were younger. As if the concepts were brand new. But they were to them at that time. And that's okay. It's okay to learn something new, young or old. This is like Eddie thinking to himself, because he's kind of stubborn. He likes his space and he likes thinking for himself. Dwight, his old friend Dwight got him into some great music too. It's fun when you're young and everything seems clean. Like the bands The Windows and the Apple Cars. See, it's right there, right in the 6th chapter, this album that I released 2 days ago, we're going to listen to soon. I already had that all planned out. It's pretty freaking wild. I might be crazy for doing this, since this was done a couple years ago. He wonders if he'll ever outgrow them. He wonders if he'll ever outgrow listening to the Windows and listening to the Apple Cars, So Eddie's song continues in the number 1 song. Now we're going all the way back to the very first EP that I created, that I'm constantly freaking redoing. But I think this whole thing is done now. So pretty soon I'm going to be releasing this in a CD form, I think. I'm going to get it mastered so all the songs are equal volume and all that stuff. But let me check with the chat just really quick. Okay, cool. Everyone's just chilling or multitasking. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. The story so far, Eddie realized that an artist's intent most likely is way different than the listener's interpretation. He also realizes that folks like to malign other people's work on purpose. So he set out to write a song explicitly stating what his intent is. But his kitty cat seems to have a mind of her own and gets interrupted and keeps interrupting him. Oh well, he still gets his point across. And I threw that in because in this number one song, I actually have my cat interrupting us and interrupting me. And so I kept her in the song. That's cats for you, right? So here is the lyrics to this is the number one song. This is the number one song. Consider this one important. It overrides other interpretations. No one can get it twisted. For the reasons I said earlier. Because people twist your stuff. It's crazy. You spend all this time doing things and people just come in and they twist it and tell you what it is. Here to clear up any misgivings. The author's intent is very clear. A wonderful future the author is off to. So the author, Eddie Clive, he's saying I'm creating this stuff and I'm going to a wonderful future of high technology too. Whatever stories come after this tune have happy endings. Whether the listener hears it or not, all struggles and adversities are mastered. And all these characters are off to a wonderful future. In some ways, they're already there. It's called destiny. And he also realizes in the quantum field, there's things called nonlinear characteristics, meaning that to him, that all these different timelines are all future and past and now is all in the now. So this is the number one song the listener gets to refer to. No other intent can corrupt it. So those are the first seven. Those are the first 7 chapters, and I freaking love it. Yeah, dude, box set in my future. Thank you, Keith. That's cool. No, I don't expect people to intently listen to everything I'm doing. Just the fact that you're here and people in the future watching this, thank you for your I mean it so much, man. Thank you for supporting me. It's your time, in your life. And Kat is agreeing with me. Kat with a K. So let's see. I don't know, man. Like I said, I have all this stuff all over the place here in these different notepads, right? But I'm gonna freaking just keep going this way, I think, because it's gonna be easier for me if I could make it to, I have about 50 minutes till the listening party starts. This is someone else's muse, and this is under the unscheduled appearance of Eddie Clive, and I did this a long time ago. Yeah, 2022, so 4 years ago. So you guys heard, Virtual Cues was the first chapter. Someone else's muse is like the 8th chapter. So let me see here.
Recorder.
All right, so I'm going to change the background noise now. From that, you don't want to drive people nuts with the same fucking thing. All right, so I'm going to remove that, and I'm just going to read part 2 here. Virtual Cues. Yeah. So Eddie was a songwriter who wrote songs without being a musical virtuoso. All his life, he'd listened and developed a neural network from a really young age, a neurological network in the brain. You get that through repetition from learning. That's how we learn, through a neural net. he knew a songwriter, and they partied a lot. This is back in his past. In their late teens and 20-somethings. Eddie was really into this best friend of his, but alas, the songwriter he loved would never show any of his songs to anyone else but to Eddie. And Eddie thought Dwight was really freaking talented. It's like, why don't you show your songs to other people, man? What the freak's wrong with you? You know? Well, he did show the songs to his brother. Well, Eddie's brother sometimes, and a few others, with the knowledge of his songs, but not many others. Only Eddie. And Eddie didn't know it at the time, but he subconsciously didn't like it. Didn't like being someone else's muse, and that's the name of the song is Someone Else's Muse. Yeah, like, thanks a lot. I'm the muse for your songs. Thanks, Dwight. That's what Eddie thought of Dwight, his childhood friend. In other words, Eddie was the only one listening to his songs. So Eddie moved far away and wrote his own songs. Eddie had a few adventures, even one with his brother, but none of them panned out either, so he moved away again. When he was alone is when he truly grew as a songwriter, you know? So going back to Someone Else's Muse. I like that. Whoo! All right, so we're going to go back. This one's easy. So this is like the ninth. This is like the ninth chapter of Eddie Clive here. So we're going to stop this. Now we're going to go back to sync. We're going to go back to this one for a little while. So one day Eddie watched a documentary about another songwriter who he instantly loved when he first heard him. A master songwriter who Eddie quickly learned had a deep archive of lo-fi recordings. An almost offensive amount of brilliant lo-fi recordings. Wondrous pop gems that rivaled and even transcended great radio classics. But the way in which they were recorded, they could never be played on the radio, you know? So he watched this documentary. This documentary explained who the master was. Not a rock star in the spotlight, just a guy who lived in an ordinary neighborhood, who went to college and even got a normal career, but who wrote and recorded songs in his spare time. And this absolutely blew Eddie away. This master songwriter did not seem to elevate himself above others, just included his friends and family in what he was doing. Not only this, but the documentary revealed how the master wrote the songs. It was there for anyone to see how the master wrote the songs. Eddie, when he first watched the documentary, didn't refer to him as the master. He just realized now in retrospect, because of something I'll say later. It was there for anyone to see, not hidden secretly, So Eddie decided to try it. He tried the process himself and found out it worked. So he created an album and dedicated it to the master songwriter. So that was part 3. Well, not part 3. It was like part 9 or something. It's pretty crazy. So we'll go back. We'll go to Virtual Friends. The 10th chapter of Eddie Clive. Right? So we're going to remove that. And now, mind you, this all went on while Eddie was busy making Virtual Friends. Eddie thought, I'll find people who like the same type of music I do, and I'll try to share my songs with them. So he wanted to go online and just network, and oh yeah, you like this band too? Oh, I like it. But he didn't want to get involved with people's personal lives and stuff. So he kept it moving along, you know. So he went online and added profiles based on this line of thinking. But Eddie made a critical error. You see, Eddie likes his privacy. So he naturally did not include details of his personal life on his profile. So the virtual friends remained virtual. Very few actually met him. Consequently, he stumbled into a brilliant academy. Okay, this is why he later calls him master. A brilliant academy, so to speak, an academy of brilliant minds who had their own vocabulary, a vocabulary of codes. And guess who was the head of this academy? The master songwriter. So he sent this thing off, and he had no clue because he just didn't know. But he was into quantum physics, and he was into this idea of rippling reality and improving his life. And this whole thing backfired on him, you know? Hey, man, Chad, thank you for saying hi. This is my personal vlog where the music comes first, but the meaning is underneath, and I pretty much state my intent with the song so no one can get it twisted. But thanks for being here, man. Hey, that's my friend Kat, Chad, Lady Braven. Very awesome. Thank you for saying hi, dude. Really appreciate it. So let's move on to the next. I don't want to keep doing the same background music all the time because it could really mess people up. Okay, so, the master found out about Eddie's experiment. The master wrote back, but Eddie never saw it. So this prolific master songwriter who was a part of an academy, of thought, because all musicians and all actors and all actresses are actually magicians. And Eddie had no clue about this. He was just some dork, but he was catching on through quantum physics that you could ripple reality. Well, the master started creating song after song after song, trying to communicate to him. Okay, this is all fiction. This is all made up. And but Eddie would listen to the songs and he wouldn't even know because he didn't think that the songs were about him. He never knew because he paid little mind to his virtual friends. And this is how Eddie really screwed up. So it's Eddie's fault. It's not the freaking master teacher's fault, You know, Eddie and the Cruisers, right? Pretty awesome. There's enough people out there doing documentaries and stuff, man, about, you know, all these bands, and God bless them. I'm just doing my own thing here, and I appreciate my friends saying hi to me as I do it. So we're going to add this to the stage. Dun, dun, dun. And what do we got here? Virtual friends. See how the different parts here? That's all wrong now. I got to change that. So much more. I think it's like the 11th or 12th chapter of Eddie Clive. Hopefully I can get through all of this before we get to the Apple Cars. This is the pre-listening party where I talk about Eddie Clive. And I got to be very mindful of the time here. So I'm going to remove that. Hey, thanks, Chad, man. Chad does comic book claim sales. I've been doing them. We did it one time together on Bruce's show. That was fun. Yeah, we could totally do that, Matt. I would totally do that, you know. All right, so much more. This might be like the 12th chapter of Eddie Clive or something. There's so much that happened to Eddie after this. So much more. The master was doing what seemed like everything in his power to bring Eddie's attention to this. So this master songwriter would just record, release, all these songs in this fictitious world, this fictional world that I just created. He was doing this, and a lot of them were about Eddie or the situation that Eddie put himself in, and he had no clue. He was a total dork. So to bring Eddie's attention to this, to the fact that he wrote back, the master songwriter wrote back, but he was already successful. But he was writing back through his albums and stuff that people were listening to. But what did it matter? None of that mattered. Ultimately, it was mattering in some ways, but it didn't matter because Eddie wasn't mindful enough to see it. He wasn't mindful enough to see it, you guys. So much more happened, so much more. But that story can be told some other day, rest assured. When I wrote that up, like I'm telling the story, I wrote this like years ago. Listen to me, Eddie. Listen to me. Eddie loves the master. Whether he wrote back or not, he loves him. He thinks he's a genius songwriter. Because Eddie was already truly inspired by this guy. So that's part 12 or something. So much more. Thank you for joining us in the pre-listening phase here, where I'm catching up the character Eddie Clive to the Apple Cars, because the Apple Cars is about Eddie Clive. So we're going to go here. I got to be very mindful of the time because it automatically turns on Bandcamp. Okay, so here's so much more that I just read. And Eddie's story continues, and it's okay. He's letting go from the Business Elsewhere release. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Psychotronic Squirt Gun, go down to Business Elsewhere is what I meant to say. And here is a song about it's okay, he's letting go. You know? So I think I could just go here, and this should lead me to another song. Okay, yeah. So Eddie was first introduced, and I create these links, and you can go all the way back to the first song. Although the first few chapters of Eddie, I'm going to redo the vocals because they're not that great. So Eddie's story continues in No More Songs About the Master. on the They Took the Reverse Too Seriously release. Normally I have the links, but because these are not available on the streaming platforms yet, I got to do this the old school way by clicking this. And we're going to go to, what did I say? Which release was that? They took the reverse too seriously right here. So no more songs about the master. That's what this is right here. And Eddie's story continues, but we'll read the lyrics here. No more songs about the master, because Eddie Clive was writing about this situation, and he was writing songs. But something terrible happened to Eddie as a consequence, because other things happened because he did not see what was going on with the master. He was a fool. Just like the first song, Virtual Cues. He did not see those virtual cues. He was a fool. And he made a huge mess. And other people on the internet, so many more people on the internet saw what was going on. Okay? So at this point, he says, no more songs about the master. Eddie Clive is okay. No more songs about the master. Eddie Clive moved away. He still loves the master because he knows how much the master did for him. Wrote songs about him, thousands and thousands of songs. Eddie suspects about him. He doesn't really know because he never really met the guy. And distributed to an army of friends. But no more songs about the master. Eddie Clive's story will move on to the next event. And you'll understand why Eddie fell. He fell from grace. It was terrible what happened to Eddie after this. Because as Eddie was catching on, finally, other things already happened. Other things already occurred. Other schools of thought, other magical schools saw what Eddie did. But he says the only songs ever about the master were Eddie's songs prior to this one. No more songs about the master until the story is over. So when the songs were about Eddie, those were the only songs about the master. All the other songs on this release and the other releases after Business Elsewhere were not about the master at all. So there you go. So Eddie Clive, now we're going to Scripts About Him, Part 1. From the weird scenes inside the toy labyrinth. So we're going to go there now. So here's an album called Weird Scenes Inside the Toy Labyrinth. And all these songs are not just about Eddie. I have other characters too, and I have friends who actually sketch my characters who are into comic books like I'm into comic books. And I appreciate my friends doing that. So Scripts About in Part 1. Let me check stuff here. Cool. I'm glad you love that title. Let me change the song again, so I'm not driving everyone nuts. Okay, this is Scripts About Him. I might be able to get through this before I get to the Apple cars. What a tragedy that Eddie never knew. He never knew that the songs were written about him. About it. By the time the big mess happened where other artists were coming in, other schools of thought are coming in, because they were laughing at him and writing songs and all this stuff. It was so fucking crazy. But what a tragedy that Eddie never knew. Of course, one could have simply told him, but that would be breaking some unspoken rule. You know, the index finger to the lips and all of that, you know? So without knowing this, Eddie left the great academy he was unknowingly a part of. They never left him, though. So he left the great academy. Once he found out about it, he didn't try, like, he tried holding on a little bit, but he knew that there were too much damage has been done because everyone knew. All these other different schools of thought, of magical thought knew, not just the house where he came from, that he didn't know he was a part of, the academy. They did not expect this turn of events, the people in the academy. Some actually became upset by it. He didn't even know what he did. Eddie was already a magician. He didn't even know it. Eddie was already a magician and he didn't even know it. He blew a hole into another house, so to speak, another school of thought, by merely creating another room. So he was online and he didn't realize what he did. He created a fan base on another social outlet, social media outlet, and that was running, and people in there knew about what was going on with the academy. It was a big freaking mess. It was a big joke too to a lot of people, a lot of celebrities too. Even it got out of hand, you guys. So he created that room. He created a portal to others who he would later term the Mudster Collective. They are the Mudsters, you know? And he didn't even know he was virtually interacting with the Mudster Collective, you know? And so the next song is called The Mudster Collective from this release. And we're going to go old school here. Click on the weird scenes inside the toy labyrinth. And we're going to go to the Mudster Collective. When I release these on streaming platforms, I create links so that it happens faster. I could go to this song, that song, this song. But I haven't done it yet, so I'm doing the old school method here. Here's the Mudster Collective. Eddie never imagined his meanderings would impact so many other people the way it did. Upon reflection, Eddie realized he was being criticized for being so cold online. That's part of the reason why he didn't catch on to all the big mess he created, because he wasn't involved with his virtual friends. He was just this loner guy who liked certain bands, you know? But he knew this wasn't true. After all, he reached out publicly to who he perceived to be an altruistic hacker group who denounced tyranny and oppression. So this hacker group made like this big splash on YouTube and other video platforms at a certain time. And so he went into their chat and he realized what was going on. He must have, on some level, even though he didn't see it all. He didn't know how big the mess was. But he started feeling terrible. Like something was happening to him. And he didn't know why. And so he asked for help from the hacker group. He endorsed them publicly, and they became aware of him. The source of this hacker group went deeper than Eddie ever imagined. He wasn't aware of it at the time, but this group would later protect Eddie because they weren't just merely a hacking group. Okay? They were a military outfit as well. So it's quite a mess. They realized what Eddie did when he created the other room online. This room somehow busted through the floodgates of the Mudster Collective. The Mudsters weren't all corrupt. They just happened to like certain bands, and they would just interact, but they didn't realize the damage they were doing because they were feeding something. They were feeding a thought form that was rippling through the reality of this world. And Eddie didn't even know about the corruption there at the time. He even suspects the originators of the Mudster Collective were not corrupt. Well, at least not as corrupt as what he later knew and what he sensed and felt, because he started feeling terrible. He didn't understand it. Started feeling gross. Started having wicked thoughts suddenly too, and he knew it wasn't him. Eddie later experienced the mud, the filth that might have even transcended the Mudster, even transcended the Mudster Collective, since Eddie viewed them as pranksters and simply out for a laugh. Were they just out for a laugh, however? So this band that he really liked, he would listen to it. He didn't know they were part of the Mudster Collective, and he still doesn't really know to what degree, but he would listen over and over and over and over again to this particular band. And it made him laugh. And he thought that was the greatest gift ever. But he didn't realize what he did in the academy, you know? And that was trickling through other schools of thought, magical schools of thought. And it went so long without knowing, like a fool. The tarot card, the Fool. It's not that you're stupid. It's that you don't know and you're just wandering, making messes. And that's exactly what happened to Eddie Clive. And it's still not over yet. And I got 20 minutes before the new album starts on Bandcamp. So I gotta keep this moving along here. We pick up his story later in Scripts About Him Part 2, where he almost loses his mind. So weird scenes. No, what did I just say? Scripts About Him Part 2. There's Part 1. And this was like a 32 song release. There we go, Part 2. Let me check really quick. Okay, everyone's just chilling. Thanks for being here. Scripts About Him. His adventures continue, but here is a dark spell was cast upon Eddie, which took almost 2 years for him to shake off. It was terrible, you guys. It was awful. As he was coming out of it, he saw archetypes in movies, TV, and comic books that seemed to be addressing him directly, just like the master of the academy did. And after he went through this curse, which I haven't described the amount of the curse that he went through and how great and how terrible it was. But all these other schools of magical thought, which we know as quantum physics, it's all this other stuff is superstitious nonsense. But who control Hollywood and all that, they knew about Eddie Clive. It got that big. And so the movies that were coming out were making references to the situation as well. And they were placing their intention and what they wanted to happen in the movies. So was this merely a residual effects of the spell, or was he psychically dragged into something? It was like a war was going on. Like people's intent with movies, for instance, there's good intent and there's bad intent, and they know that it ripples, their intent ripples into reality, and they want things to happen according to their intent. And as many people as they can get to just simply observe scenes or listen to music, things can happen for them in reality. And this is what Eddie Clive is finding out about a great war between good and evil. Perhaps he never told anyone this, or they would have locked him up in a psych ward somewhere. So as this was going on, he didn't tell anybody about this, or they would have locked him up. In the arena of art and entertainment, Eddie experienced movies he watched. The movies he watched had story elements in it that related to what he went through. Every story he watched was a version of events they wanted to manifest. Some of these conflicted between enemies, their manifestations, right? If you could imagine the spell casting that's happening out there. It all depends on who's watching what. All the while, Eddie was blown away. He felt he was the center of these stories. All these scripts were about him. Maybe that part of it was true, but Eddie knows now they simply were archetypes that weren't necessarily about him. So he did come to a realization that they use Jungian archetypes, they use mythological archetypes, and they keep creating stories around these archetypes and they do rituals to put their intent into these archetypes. And Eddie had no clue about this. And Eddie realized, oh no, this is not about me and my situation. This is just a war that's going on that he got dragged into, and that he was used. He got used, and he didn't even know it. So where are we at here? We got 15 minutes till this happens here, till the listening party happens. So, wow. Okay, there's other songs too. Let me see here. I think I made it to, because Eddie Clive doesn't appear on a lot of albums. Yeah, I have to go and you guys, I got to totally fix this. Here's Jimmy and the Owl. So the Jimmy and the Owl was supposed to happen before this. This song is more of a figurative description of what happened to Eddie after he left the Quiet Academy. It really gets spelt out in the summary of Eddie later in this release. So song after song about this stuff, you know? I mean, what the freak am I doing? Let me change the music a little bit here. While rolling a 50-gallon drum to a potato garden, Eddie read the words painted on the side of a great eerie hallway. Falling Star Entertainment presents terrifying stunts and women. Eddie created this virtual world for Jimmy and the Owl. So that's the band, is Jimmy and the Owl. And he created the room for them back then. So I kind of jumped ahead because this is a work in progress and I didn't have it all connected properly. He felt the carnival within him, the need to be entertained. Semi-autonomous hacker farm arranged in a maze. So that there's a hacker group that's protecting him, but there was also hacker groups on the side of the Mudster Collective. Big banners and streamers snapping in the wind. Eddie didn't know what others did for Jimmy and the Owl. You don't need a sinkhole. You don't need a fishbowl for Jimmy and the Owl. Laughing, shrieking, dealers deal at a poker table. A big crowd from the settlement smelled the frying popcorn. That's all the other schools and all the other magicians coming in and seeing this ridiculous situation. of Eddie Clive being the fool and creating another freaking room in another freaking magical school that he didn't know about. He doesn't need a hula hula doll with Saturn's rings around her figure. Eddie just wants to set it straight for Jimmy and the owl. You don't need a peephole. You don't need a fishbowl for Jimmy and the owl. All right? So I skipped around a little bit. I got the summary. The weird scenes inside the toy labyrinth. Actually, this song that we're hearing right now is off this album. I forgot what I just said here. So anyway, there's the Mutster Collective, and I don't even know if I should show that song, the summary of Eddie. This is a summary of Eddie. Hopefully this makes perfectly clear what happened to him. This is during the curse. This is the curse song. I should call it the curse song, because Eddie makes it through the other side. It's not really about Eddie. It was horrible yet beautiful in a way, since his experience led him to actually know that real psychic phenomena exists. So once someone really experiences stuff, it's crazy. And it's a spoken word piece, you guys. So anyone who's interested in the curse of Eddie, check out Summary of Eddie under Weird Scenes Inside the Toy Labyrinth. And you'll get a spoken word. Okay. So that might have caught us up. Not really. I have something so low that you know, it might not pick up on all devices, you know. I mean, I can turn it up, Chad. You know, I could turn it up a little bit, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's Psychotronic Synthwave Part 2 for that album there. Okay, so I guess I have time to kind of jump into the Apple Cars. I'm going to have to go back through and retell the story, but who cares? This is an ongoing thing. But this whole album, The Apple Cars, is about Eddie Clive. So where did I leave off? What's the next one here? I don't know. It's going to be tough for me to figure this out. Hold on a second. We'll just get into the Apple Cars part, because there's another villain, the multicolored-eyed man who got involved with the Mutster Collective and laid even more curses on him. But Eddie survived it all. So we're going to go into the Apple Cars here, the title track. Eddie also met a teacher in his dreams and was teaching him how to further his abilities, because he made it through that curse. So Eddie now has a teacher that's teaching him how to create reality, line up with the power within and all of that. So we're skipping a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to talk about the Apple cars here just a little bit. As his visions became clear, he was actually having psychic visions. So did his dreams. In fact, Eddie had a sneaking suspicion that his new teacher was somehow helping him with these new set of dreams. One of Eddie's favorite bands is the Apple Cars. Absolutely, 100% loves the Apple Cars. This band was around well before Eddie was even born. Yet he began dreaming about them a lot. And one day he started dreaming as if he was one of the musicians in that band. He started dreaming as if he was one of the members of that band, the Apple Cars. So Eddie was proud of what he went through. Unbelievable psychic attacks. Nearly finished him off at one point. He'll continue reading and researching, however. But lately, something has been disturbing him again, even after the curse. But after he went through the curse, he can handle so much now. It's incredible. At first, it was his dreams that disturbed him. He was a member of one of his favorite groups, the Apple Cars. He was one of them. One of two of the main songwriters. Okay, so the next song, you can hit this link and it links right to the beginning. I might change that because I'm going to redo the first few chapters of Eddie Clive because I don't like how I'm singing it. All right. Okay, Mirror Reality is the next one. Without the links, it's harder to figure out where stuff is. But we're going to go to Mirror Reality. Ooh, we're getting close to when this is going to start. I might have to stop at this one. Eddie realizes that Saul Doppelwood of the Apple Cars. Eddie realizes he was Saul Doppelwood of the Apple Cars from another lifetime. The other three members were Richard Locksteller, Gorge Ferguson, and Ron Nolan. They were already fabulous. They were world-renowned. Even in his dreams, in Eddie's dreams, this fact seemed to mirror reality. Except he was in his favorite group. He was in the band until the day of his fatal accident. Yes, indeed, there was an automobile crash, and he in his dream was in it. Here's what he's seen. His spirit slipped from his body, and there he was hovering over the wreckage, the car wreckage. Then in a blink of an eye, his fellow bandmates were there. They saw his deceased body. They cried and screamed no. Even his best friend, Ron, who wrote songs with him. Ron was yelling, "It wasn't supposed to be you. Saul, not you. What have we done?" And right there, I'm going to stop it because I got 5 minutes. Well, as long as I could queue up, I might be able to do another one. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. He's talking about his past life, his friend Ron. He was Saul who died. Ron Nolan was the true leader of the Apple Cars. Saul Doppelwood seemed to be a leader as well, but everyone quietly knew that it was Ron who made the ultimate decisions. Ron's mentality and motivations are explored in this song. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. He wasn't going to live a boring life. He was admittedly talented, but he took a shortcut and didn't want to. He took a shortcut when he shouldn't have to. He took this shortcut, you guys. And he paid the price with his best friend's life, who was Saul. So we're getting closer. One more song I'll do. For the Kicks. Thank you. Turn up and I can hear it now. Yeah, buddy. Thanks, Chad. Higgy. Higgy knows about this world. He's been sketching characters from this world. Thank you, Higgy. I love Higgy. All right, so okay, so I'm just going to jump right to this part. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life. And he realized it, and he rationalized it as fake superstition. Or maybe he was into it for the kicks. Ron did, after all, have a lot of anger in him. Richard was too drunk and stoned to care much. Gorge was younger than the rest and basically did what Ron wanted him to. Saul didn't want to do it. But Saul loved being in the group so much that he didn't want to risk being cast out of the group. Saul and Ron wrote songs together, and both were considered the leaders. But Ron made the ultimate decision, which was an unintentional mistake, which led to not only the death of Saul, but the imposter. An imposter assumed assuming the role of Saul after Saul died. So we're going to stop it there, friends, and I'm going to get ready here for the listening party. We're going to pause that. We're going to stop the screen for that one, and then we're going to go share screen, and we're going to go to the listening party. Let's see how that looks. Here we go. So that way I can keep my eye on this. But I'm going to turn I'm going to mute this. So when that starts, I'll know about it. It's going to start. And Craig's here from the Grave Mood Rings. So cool. So someone's listening to it. That's great. But once it starts, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna play the songs directly into sound into this website here. Yeah, it should be starting did I already pause it? He calls me Gunner too. Higgy calls me Gunner. Craig calls me Gunner. A lot of people call me Gunner now because of Higgy. I don't know why this hasn't started yet. Oh, it is live. It's okay. I actually muted it here, so we're gonna I'm gonna play it here instead. So here it is, guys.
first it was his dreams that disturbed him. He was the member of one of his favorite groups, the Apple Cars. He was one of them, one of two of the main songwriters. To its fruition, run, push the idea to its fruition, run, push the idea to its fruition, Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. He wasn't going to live a boring life. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. He wasn't going to live a normal, boring life. He wasn't going to live a normal, boring life. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life. No siree, not Ron, not Ron, not Ron, not Ron, not Ron. He was admittedly talented, but he took a shortcut and he didn't want to. He took a shortcut when he shouldn't have to. He took a shortcut when he wasn't. He took a shortcut when he didn't have to. He took a shortcut when he didn't have to. He wasn't going to live a boring life, but he didn't have to take the shortcut. No siree. And he paid the price with his best friend's life. songwriter he looked up to. In his dream he was privileged to be there just hanging out with him and a couple other people. A large photograph or illustration was shown to his inspiration, which drove him criminally insane. The celebrity tried to murder, but instead got murdered. Thank God this was merely a dream, not reality. He later thought to himself after he woke up, somehow the crime got covered up, and the friend he was with had a mysterious credit card that belonged to the murder celebrity. No one who provided the funds, there it was for them to go along, as no one knew the celebrity was dead. He woke up in a gas. There it was for them so long. Weeder, mostly no one's. He woke up in a gas. He woke up in a gas. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life, and he rationalized it as fake
Thank you,
superstition.
Professor Oddfellow and his
Or
friend,
maybe he was
the heavy lifting on the song.
into it, or the kicks Ron did. After all, have a lot of anger in him. Richard was too drunk and stoned to care much. George was younger than the rest, and considered the leaders. They were already fabulous. They were world renowned. Even in his dreams, that seemed too near reality. Except he was in his favorite group. He was in the band until the day of his fatal accident. Yes, indeed, there was an automobile crash. His dreams was in it, is what he'd seen. Spirit slipped from his body, and there he was hovering over the wreckage. Then in the blink of an eye, his fellow bandmates were there. They saw his deceased body, cried and screamed. Especially his best friend, Ron, who wrote songs with him. Ron was yelling, it wasn't supposed to be you. Saw not you. What have we done? He felt a cold breeze after lounging that way. How come it's gotta be like that? He moved along anyway since there were things to do. Part of him felt there was no use in pushing things forward. After Mr. Clive witnessed it, but a warm breeze came anyway. A warm breeze, a warm was hysterical. Richard and Gorge had to refrain Ron from pulling Saul from the wreckage. And he woke in a panic. He was sweating and crying himself. And he knew he was Saul. Saul, his least favorite member of the Apple Cars. He was him in another lifetime, and there was more he knew, more he dreamed prior that now connected this all together like puzzle pieces. This imposter carried on as if he were Saul. The imposter was thrust upon the group. His former bandmates, they were too big, too famous for their time, they were told. It would shock the youth too much, shock them to their core. After all, no one was ever as known as the Apple Cars. But Eddie knew the real reason. At the time, their handlers were connected to powerful people who wanted to influence and shape society towards their own ends. Because he was involved. He was involved as Saul. But it was Ron's idea. We were just kids after all. So a deal was struck. And a sacrifice was to be made so that they could be famous. They were famous. But they wanted to keep going. Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive. Contemplate his last name. Unification of opposites, since there are even faster selves beyond infrared. Not to be confused with the Baphomet, since that is ignorant. Decided to write a song about this.
is another one. Got my friend Craig. My friends Craig and Mike.
Somewhere in some very old text to remain objective about this. The first aspect of self, to embrace it, love it, forgive it. That to do so is to heal the body. He was in senseless, negative body.
The negative self is born simultaneously with oneself and adds the dark pebbles to the scales of judgment.
That's Craig.
The body
I love it, friend. I love it.
which is closely linked to his physical body. To hate this dark aspect is to suppress it, to actually feed it, giving it opportunities to blurt out of him, sort of like Tourette's syndrome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He read somewhere in some very old text to remain objective about this. Some of you aspect of self. Negative body. Simply the body of infrared, which is closely linked to his physical body.
Okay.
A celebrity. He began
Experimental.
reflecting upon his dream, his profound dream of the credit card story, and how no one knew who provided that line of credit that he had access to. At first, Eddie was appalled by this, but under duress and threats of his life, had to acquiesce. a theory to accept and reconcile. Somehow with this negative self. There's a theory to accept and reconcile. Somehow with this negative self. There's a theory to accept and reconcile. Somehow with this negative self. There's a theory to accept and reconcile. Somehow with this negative self. Negative self.
One of my favorites right here.
A celebrity faked his death impersonating a fan. Wasn't afraid of plagiarism. And witnessed it on the internet. Fashion, the makeup, the hair involved in every way. If you understand and supported it. They weren't the first complete artists to wear a dress. And he couldn't believe the connections he just made. La da 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 da. La da 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 la da 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 da. La da 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 da. After being annoyed, he went to America. Multicolored-eyed man toward his own way. He wasn't frightened of change, he traveled a new persona. La da 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 da. When the album went top 10, he got a telegram telling him he had great ears. He was very funny, and he doesn't really appreciate him. And he no longer wants his influence. A part of him died, this one affects him the most. He wasn't afraid of plagiarism. If you believe in it, fight for it. The fashion, the makeup, the hair involved in it.
Circus Devils they laugh last. I love this one too. Teenage guitar, force fields at home. So cool. Well, that's it, you guys. I could play it again, but look at us here.
was his dreams that disturbed him. He was the member of one of his favorite groups, the Apple Cars. He was one of them, one of two of the main songwriters. Idea to its fruition. Run, push the idea to its fruition. Run, push the idea to its fruition. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. He wasn't going to live a boring life. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. He wasn't going to live a normal, boring life. He wasn't going to live a normal, boring life. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life. No siree, not Ron, not Ron, not Ron, not Ron, not Ron. He was admittedly talented, but he took a shortcut and he didn't want to. He took a shortcut when he shouldn't have to. He took a shortcut when he wasn't. He took a shortcut when he didn't have to. He's hiding his email, but no shit was me. He took a shortcut when he didn't have to. He wasn't going to live a boring life, but he didn't have to take the shortcut. No siree. And he paid the price with his best friend's life. photograph or illustration was shown to his inspiration, which drove him criminally insane. The celebrity tried to murder, but instead got murdered. Thank God this was merely a dream, not reality. He later thought to himself after he woke up, somehow the crime got covered up, and the friend he was with had a mysterious credit card that belonged to the murder celebrity. No one who provided the funds, there it was for them to go along, as no one knew the celebrity was dead. He woke up in a gas. There it was for them so long. We'd mostly no one's He woke up in a gas. He woke up in a gas.
One, two, three, four.
Ron pushed the idea to its fruition. Ron was adamant that he was not going to live a normal, boring life, and he rationalized it as fake.
Justice for Kurt.
Or maybe he was into it, or the kicks Ron did. After all, have a lot of anger in him. Richard was too drunk and stoned to care much. Gorge was younger than the rest, and basically did what Ron wanted him to. Saul didn't want to do it, but he loved being in the groove so much that he did it. considered the leaders.
Thank you, Chad. It means a lot, my man. These are all in old boxes.
They were already fabulous. They were world renowned. Even in his dreams, that seemed too near reality. Except he was in his favorite group. He was in the band until the day of his fatal accident. Yes, indeed, there was an automobile crash. And he in his dreams was in it. Is what he'd seen. Spirit slipped from his body, and there he was hovering over the wreckage. Then in a blink of an eye, his fellow bandmates were there. They saw his deceased body, cried and screamed no. Especially his best friend, Ron, who wrote songs with him. Ron was yelling, it wasn't supposed to be you. Saw not you. What have we done?
No, I don't, dude. I should totally check it out, though, huh?
He felt a cold breeze after acknowledging that way. How come it's gotta be like that? He moved along anyway since there were things to do. Part of him felt there was no use in pushing things forward. After Mr. Clive witnessed it, saw her. Yeah, a warm breeze came anyway. A warm breeze, a warm breeze, a warm breeze came on that day to show him he's got a new friend. A warm breeze came on that day. A warm breeze, a warm breeze, a warm breeze came anyway to let him know he's got a new friend. On that day, a warm breeze, a warm breeze, a warm breeze came anyway to let him know he's got a new friend. A warm breeze came on that day, a warm breeze, a warm breeze, a warm breeze came anyway to let him know he's got a new friend. Don't. Hysterical. Richard and Gorge had to refrain Ron from pulling Saul from the wreckage. Eddie woke in a panic. He was sweating and crying himself. Eddie knew he was Saul. Saul, his least favorite member of the Apple Cars. Him in another lifetime, and there was more he knew, more he dreamed prior that now connected this all together like puzzle pieces. Someone replaced impostor carried on as if he were Saul. The impostor was thrust upon the group. His former bandmates, they were too big, too famous for their time, they were told. It would shock the youth too much, shock them to their core. After all, no one was ever as known as the Apple Cars. But Eddie knew the real reason. At the time, their handlers were connected to powerful people who wanted to influence and shape society towards their own ends. Eddie knew what the group did to become famous because he was involved involved. He was involved in Saul, but it was Ron's idea. We were just kids after all. So a deal was struck, and a sacrifice was to be made so that they could be famous. We're famous. I want to keep going.
Yeah, dude. Before Dark Knight 2. So it has Dark Knight year one, and also like a little something else, like some kind of holiday special on there.
Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, Eddie Clive, contemplate his last name. He wishes he could convey it, since there are even faster selves beyond infrared. Not to be confused with the Baphomet, since that is ignorant. He decided to write a song about this. He was tired of the blatant ignorance. Decided to write a song. Roaming the earth is vibrations from other so-called artists. Roaming the earth is vibrations from other so-called artists. He was an agent of good within his own mind. There was a knowingness that they can never delete. He was an agent of good within his own mind. There was a knowingness that they can never delete.
Okay, I think that's it. That's all I'm going to play. I think I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody who checks this out. I got to put away all this stuff now. I made quite a mess, you know. I could read more of the story, but I think I'm going to go get something to eat. You know what I mean? And please check out the rewind. Check out the rewind. Check out the album. Let's do this again. I'll remove that. Thanks to everyone who actually went to the listening party. A few guys did. That was really cool. What I have to do is change that first. Go here, Psychotronic Squirt Gun, the Apple Cars. So this is it here. Now I can share it. See you guys later, man. Thank you so much, dude. I'm glad you guys had a good time. The beginning was great. Everything was fun. But once again, here's the, we'll share the screen here. Check out the Apple Cars. The further adventures of Eddie Clive. And with that, I am out.
Psychotronic Squirt Gun. Psychotronic Squirt Gun.